are going through unusual and massive losses from the disruption of COVID-19. And of course, the disruption is both on the aspect of supply and demand side. So this morning, we want to focus on that particular line, and we get to ask questions of what impact the COVID-19 pandemic has been, and what is to be done in the event that we probably want to have this sector going back to equilibrium, because it's been a sector that is very vibrant. And at that point where you hear that declaration that flights are going to be stopped, there's no more movements and all that, there's always fear of what happens to the cargoes, what happens to some of the goods that are transported or exported from point A to point B. Well, there was some ease on the line of cargo, but still the specialists who are in this sector argue that there's been vast effects or impact that have been negative for that matter. So we discuss that, and we get to know what changes need to be done, what needs to be done to ensure that this sector is revamped and is taken back to equilibrium at this point that we continue to deal with COVID-19. And of course, joining me for this particular conversation is Maina Wayangline, pretty much of a common name, of course, in the business of clearing and forwarding or release of cargo from point A to point B. It is good to have you, sir, this morning.
Exactly.
And I would love, of course, for instance, to start from that point of, just giving us the knowledge of what exactly these businesses, are all about before we delve deep into getting to know the impact of COVID-19 on the same.
Thank you. Basically, clearing and forwarding is business or logistics of moving cargo from this country to the foreign country, that is export.
Yes.
Various cargoes, of course. Import is, clearing is basically documentation of any cargo coming to this country, either by sea or by air. And that is basically our work. We do clearing and forwarding. Yeah.
All right. And we come to COVID-19, which is our main focus this morning. And we'd love to know the impact of the same on the business as it stands today, whether indeed it has, disrupted the policies that were on board, whether, of course, it has brought a different reality on ground that is probably good or negative.
On a holistic perspective, COVID-19 has had a negative impact in our business. Basically, after the first COVID case was declared in this country on Friday, 13th March this year, we've had a situation where the aircrafts were stopped from flying to this country. So basically, that meant that our flowers could not get out of this country. It meant that tourists that used to come to this country could not come. It also meant that whoever was producing the chains, the vitenges and all that could not get out of this country. So in a wider perspective, we had a direct impact. To be precise, when it comes to exports, our work touches every sector. It touches the farmer, it touches the drivers and all that. Let me give you an example. When I'm handling any cargo from, say, Kirogoya, this is fresh beans. There's a farmer who prepares that product on the ground, meaning there are those women who till, who take care of fertilizers and all that. There are those people who harvest the product. My job is to make sure that the packages have been done well. It means I have to send my staff on the ground. There are people who produce cartons for packaging these products. There's a driver who is going to take this cargo from Kirogoya all the way to Nairobi. That's transport. There's lorry for that matter. There is also, I have to do the documentation at JKIA, meaning my staff there will not earn anything. There's the other aspect of loading these products into the aircraft. Basically, the people who are employed to do that work will not do anything. And then finally, there's an income for the aircraft, in which by extension, the foreign exchange for this country.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember, again, let me look at it from a different perspective.
Okay.
We are 49.7 million Kenyans. Our GDP is almost it's got around 5%. And exports from this contribution of exports is around that's significant amount a figure. And basically, last year, for example, we exported goods worth 4.42 billion US dollars. Again, it's an import of 19.7 billion US dollars. So there's a lot of difference in terms of our balance of trade.
Yes.
So when the aircrafts are stopped from flying, it meant that majority of that income was affected. Look at it from a different angle again. Flowers last year, we exported flowers worth 104 billion Kenya shillings. Fruits, that is 13 billion Kenya shillings. And basically vegetables gave this country 25 billion Kenya shillings. We expected this year to have a 10% increase. So basically, as a result of the COVID-19, some of this realization may not be a reality for that matter. So it has had a very, very big impact. And directly again, let me say, we lost people, we lost staff as a result of this COVID-19. So it's a trickle-down effect. And you can imagine what happened in Port of Mombasa when it comes to import. There was so much. There were no containers coming in. You can imagine people stopped bringing in goods. So the staff there, the workers, even the guys who used to sweep. Again, when tourists couldn't come to Kenya because of that closure, there were hotels that were closed. You can imagine the coastal strip of this country, the big hotels, in this Nairobi and other areas. Staff were retrenched, others were stopped from working, and physically some hotels were closed. So I can say, in a broader perspective, our logistics world was literally affected, and we could not do much. Right,
indeed, this has gone down by around 15%, which is pretty much a loss, or indeed an undoing, also to speak to on this particular sector. We're talking about, course of the year, 28% reduction, as compared to what was last year. And in this situation, then questions arise as to just how then this can be revived after we say we're post-COVID, and not necessarily post-COVID, because every other sector today is discussing the recovery plan. So what plans are underway to ensure that this, is going to be addressed to avoid the dire consequences that are likely to culminate if we continue with this trajectory of COVID-19?
Well, there are various mitigating factors that have come in. The government has done well. They have encouraged EPZs. I can see the counties have also embraced the aspect of EPZs and encouraging seed centers where they produce items for exports. In, for example, Singishu County has had some EPZ zones, and we request other counties to do the same. Other mitigating factors could be encouragement of diversification of exports. You realize that we rely too much on our coffee and tea, and sometimes, tourists. We can also venture in other areas like grains. We have ndomas and local products. Right now, there is so much demand out there of various grains that initially used to be traditional. So we need to do that. Let's encourage our local business people, the Juakali artisans, to venture into the export line, because initially the export and import job used to be mysterious. People used to imagine, we don't know how to go about it and all that. But our effort as individuals, as Kenyans, to go out there and add value to the products that we do. I'm also happy to note that some counties like Makueni County has gone one step ahead in processing the mangoes, adding value to the same, and exporting them outside the country. Right now, my company, Young Line, has had series of sensitization. We have had meetings to, encouraging people to do exports. it doesn't matter the kind of products you are exporting.
Yeah.
We have rabbit furs, we have insects for research, we have tortoise and other things that we do exports for guys in the US. There are those people who need them, either for pets or there's some celebrities and all that.
Okay. So
it doesn't matter really. We have had a conversation with various counties like Kisii County. We are now licensing them in terms of exporting their soapstones from tobacco.
Okay.
The Kajiado County has come on board, I mean with us as Young Line, where we are encouraging those ladies who normally sell their beads and handcrafts to tourists that walk into those parks to get together and export in large quantity to outside the country. Other things that we have done as a country, as a company, and we encourage other companies to do the same, is to do much economy of scale in terms of reduction of export costs.
Yeah.
Right now we are doing, we used to do $2.5 per kilo for flowers to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
We are doing it around 1.6. That's a big reduction.
And still there's the returns, and
the returns are good.
Okay.
Returns are good because
now
so
you have very many people coming.
Yes.
Okay.
So the more people come, the more we export. The higher, the lower the rates, and we're able to spread that economy scale to our clients. Infrastructure
is crucial in this case. Then
Indeed.
We started by saying that, well, we had the flights being stopped and all that, but you know, it's a whole different scenario, especially when there was that ease of the restrictions that were on board.
Indeed.
Has transport been restored to any extent, or you know, to a larger extent, and has it been good enough for the processes to continue?
The air freight industry has come more or less to a normalcy.
Yes.
Because we've had flights that used to fly that stopped. Now they are back. All the flights are back. We have private jets. They're also back. So it's us to feed them with much cargo, and so that we can earn from that competition. So because the more flights come in, the more the competition. Hence, we are able to bargain our way to reduce the rates per kg in terms of exports.
What's the situation with the shippers?
The shippers are happy.
Okay.
The shippers are happy. I mean, I've just done several containers of tea to Mombasa, and I do a lot of heights to Mombasa. I mean, to various places, various parts of the world, and of late I've not had any problem at all. Yeah.
Right. With the scenario, do you anticipate accelerated container or empty container movement into the country to make sure that at least it looks into the equipment shortage and, you know, also cushion on the same?
We have had various shipping lines coming in, and without mentioning names, there are about 5 or 6 major ones, and they are all back to business. So we expect, based on the same, to have that option, and the containers will be back in terms of numbers. Yeah.
All right, briefly back, and I mean, I don't think this has got anything to do with COVID-19, but customs has equally facilitated electronic movement of documentation for that matter. Do you suppose this has augured in well towards making things work as expected?
The Kenya Revenue Authority has tried its level best in locating us clearing and forwarding agents. In terms of documenting, in terms of easing the documentation of exports, but still there are hitches that are addressed in everyday situation. They are doing well right now. We used to be Kentrade. Right now we are in ICMS.
Yes.
Despite the small hitches here and there, the documentation has been brought into one window, and we are happy. So far, so good. Also, in addition to KRA, we have facilitation from other government bodies. KEFIS, Kenya Planters Inspectorates, has also coming, and they are also constructing sheds to facilitate cold storage for our products. Yeah. We are seeing that's a plus. All right. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce is also going out there. It's quite full blast in sensitizing the exporters. Okay. HCDA, Horticultural Development Authority, is also out there doing what they can do to make sure that the farmers and other exporters have had an easy time of exporting their products.
Well, given the situation, what will be the scenario on the aspect of liquidity and cash flow? within the industry?
There are various factors that come into play when it comes to this sector. You realize that right now, as we're talking, the dollar is 115 buying, 114 selling.
Yes.
That is quite high,
right.
Compared to 6 months before, when we used to buy it at 102 and selling 100. It will be a multifactorial approach. We cannot really say that the cash flow within this sector will be directly affected by our improvement. It's a question of various sectors come into play, and the shilling and other economic situation will be stabilized. Yeah.
All right, and there have been some level of adjustments that have been made at this time of COVID-19. Yeah. How is the logistics sector operating with the work from home scenario?
It is quite challenging to move a container from home, if you're moving a container from Mombasa to Kampala, for example. It's not as easy as any other sector. One unique line of this sector of clearing and forwarding is that it requires you to be physically there. It's unfortunate that after the issue of COVID-19 came into play, you've had a situation where our drivers stopped from moving the trucks, and if they were they were moving the trucks, it could, meant that sometimes they could be stopped from going, given the barricading of various counties. Unfortunately, for the last few months, the expense of moving a container from Mombasa has increased. Yeah. For example, initially you used to spend $2,300 to move a container from Mombasa to Kampala. Right now, it is coming to around $3,500. Why? Wow. Because of various barricades that I've had. You can see a driver driving from Nairobi to, from Mombasa to Nairobi. He stops at maybe at the river. He stops at Salga for a day or so. That delay by itself is an expense, and even the time taken for the driver to move from one point to the other. It used to be around 3 days. Now it's around 7 to 9 days. You can see. That's quite an expense by itself.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much unfortunate. It reminds me of the difficult moments at the border points with the truck drivers and all that. You also work with the truck drivers? We
do with truck drivers because we move, when it comes to clearing, after we clear a container in Mombasa or clear goods in JKIA, we work with truck drivers to move this cargo from where they have been cleared, point of clearance, to where the client is. Yeah.
All right, and it's been very hard.
That's been tricky, but so far there's a slight improvement because the Kenya Revenue Authority came in, they had our cries, and they have somehow assisted in increasing the staff and also facilitating in terms of machines. Yeah.
All right, the losses, who gets to incur them, who gets to cater for them, for instance, for perishable goods that you speak about, flowers, fruits, foods, and all that?
It's unfortunate that the clients will normally incur the client incurs the cost of basically the loss. Okay. Yeah, we can't help in the situation, but we do all of our best. It's our belief and our effort to make sure that our clients are happy and satisfied. Because when our clients are satisfied, the business come in and the volume will increase. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What do you visualize that will play out immediately after the lockdowns, immediately after there's that ease on matters COVID-19?
The difference between what is right now at the airport, JKA, in terms of cargo flow and what will happen in the next 2 or so months is not much. We don't expect much because we are more or less the same line that you used to do. This month we are more or less on the same export volume that you used to do for some last year. So don't expect so much. If at all there'll be a change, there'll be around 2% improvement. Yeah.
What of the estimate on the aspect of recovery? I mean, so much has happened, so much has been destabilized within the sector. So after that, do you suppose then there's so much that can be done, and there will be so much, in terms of estimates towards recovering the sector?
Our aim is to, like my aim as an individual, is to improve the economy of this country, play my role as an individual to improve the economy of this country by encouraging exports. With the various players coming into play, we expect that by next year, 2021, our exports will be able to do 6.5 billion this time and reduce the import to around 17 billion US dollars. So we look forward to better things.
Right.
The better things are coming. Yeah.
Even as you look forward to that, you need to know where it is that you're coming from. What have been the, say, top 3, top 4 concerns on matters COVID-19? I know you've mentioned them, but of course there are a couple of others that maybe would be those ones that are not clearly visible, but then with proper understanding of this particular sector, you can pinpoint and say from this point to this point, then this is how we're going to approach this is how we're going to address these key concerns.
Some other factors are latent, they are hidden. For example, in terms of documentation or improving our exports, we expect the physical location of where we get like certificate of origin and other documents to be physically located at the airport. You realize that when it comes to getting some of these documents, you go all the way to Upper Hill instead of them being located at JKIA. Centralization of operations is very, very important. So that the time taken for us to do the clearance of the cargo is quite faster. Because when it comes to time is a very crucial factor in our exports and import industry. So when you say an officer is located at Upper Hill or Times Tower instead of being located at JKIA, that by itself is a detriment. So we expect some of these things to come into play. And when we harmonize these operations, things will move on well. Yeah. Any
lessons to pick at this point?
We've learned to survive in hard times.
Yeah.
We've learned to, like Chenua Achebe said, we've learned to fly without patching and to shoot without missing. Nobody expected this scenario to come into play, and we've had a lot of lessons by ourselves. We have, my company has initiated the aspect of building warehouses, so that more cargo can be stored, just in case of any flight cancellation and all that. We're able to assist our clients so that they're not inconvenienced. We have also had a situation where we do a lot of agreement with various airlines, so that if a particular airline is not flying to a particular destination, we're able to give our clients option. We also request, we have talked to the government, in the Ministry of Trade in particular, so that it can open other avenues or other markets. We should not rely on our traditional market of India, Japan and other areas to export our coffee. Let's go to South America. Let's go to Central America. Right now, Kenya Airways is flying directly from Nairobi to New York. Let's take advantage of that. If I may put this into perspective, Kenya Airways is doing so well in flying directly to US, meaning that our fresh produce are now able to be taken to US directly without much ado. Let us not encourage so much import of fish. This country has capacity of producing its own fish, another product. Kisumu has not been exploited to the full. We have not built enough ponds in Central. Let's not do things that can be done in the country. Let's not import products that can be produced in this country. And by that, by doing so, we are really discouraging our local entrepreneurs.
Right.
So let's also add value to other products that we have. We've had a friend of mine who does fish skins in Kisumu, and is doing well. So let's not look things from the same perspective and try and look it from a different perspective, so that in case one direction fails, we're able to earn a living from the other direction.
Year in, year out, we do more of imports as opposed to exports. And like you started by saying, we can only hope that we get to that point where we're going to balance this. What really is the biggest impediment to achieving the same?
We lack interest. And the officers that are given that responsibility somehow spend so much time in seminars instead of coming down to the ground. I rarely see various officers, specialist officers coming to the ground. They are supposed to consult us, who are the real players on the ground. But because if they don't do that, you'll be doing things theoretical instead of doing it practical. So let us be real in everything that we do.
Policy is one thing that is a problem, not just in this particular sector, but across all sectors. What can be done to ensure that this particular sector adopts policy? And we get to implement some of the policies that have been put on board to streamline the same.
There is a difference between formulating beautiful policies and implementing it. The will is what this country is endowed with so much in terms of professionalism. There are so many experts in the food sector. There are so many experts in various things. But the will to implement that, the bridge between the policy and implementing is what we lack.
Yeah.
Very simple example. I'm not a politician, but I'm a businessman. We've had so many papers about Nairobi. About Nairobi, how to improve Nairobi since 1963.
Yes.
It has taken 6 months to see a real. Yesterday, we saw a Brit movement to where I work at JKIA. It's a question of implementing what you have been talking about for all these years. It's not a question of just putting into beautiful words and all that. Let us implement bit by bit what we have talked about for all this time.
Yeah.
It's not a question of having so much beautiful policies. Those are two worlds altogether.
Okay.
Let us implement the good policies that we have. Let those policies not get dust in the shelves, and let us go down the ground and do what you're supposed to do to improve this country.
Before we update you on what is happening on the roads, let's wind up on this particular note now that we are talking about politics. So last, we've had the localizing and regional bill to codify regulations and standard for the freight forwarding industry. The East African Customs Agents and Freight Forwards Management Model Bill 2017 is equally said to be adopted by all 6 East African community states to enhance professionalism in this particular sector. I mean, pegging your argument on that, what has been the relationship with, of course, the other countries that we do business with in terms of exporting and importing?
When it comes to training, for example, the East Africa countries have been had one window. There's a way we do our documentation so that they go together with the rest of the countries, and that has been a positive thing. Again, when it comes to taxation,
yes,
the East Africa communities have had various waves of taxations for various items. But that by itself encouraging us individuals to do exports.
Yeah.
Again, when it comes to us clearing and forwarding, we have been able to bring ourselves together. We have our body, the East Africa Clearing and Forwarding Body. We have our local KIFWA, which somehow is the center of our operation. When you have any issue to do with our policies or education or updating ourselves on technology, we have had to liaise with them for the purpose of improving our operations. So in a nutshell, the coming together of East Africa community not only is giving us an ease of doing business, but it's also bringing us together for the purpose of improving and trickling down the benefits that we have to the local exporters. Yeah.
Maina Wayangline, thank you so much. You'd probably give us the parting shots, especially in terms of, just speaking to the business people who are out there and sort of feel like, it's dead end, especially at this time of COVID-19. Even as we cross over to update you on what is happening on the roads, it looks like it is bad this morning, courtesy of the rains. So I think it is necessary that we update the people on what is happening after, of course, we take a short break. So what will be your parting shots?
I wish to request each and every person in this country to play their role in terms of improving our economy. For the businessmen who are good in who are interested in exports, as my company Young Line is ready to assist you in terms of education, looking for the market of your products, and also assisting you to get to know how to value add your products. Again, we are here to give you the best value for your products in terms of exports, in terms of rates, in terms of documentation, fast documentation, as well as any other issue that we wish to be clarified to, for the purpose of your benefit, our benefit, and the country's benefit as a whole.
Well, we send our invoice later and we make sure that he gets to advertise with us. Yes, that should be a yes.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much, Maina Young Line. It was good having you this morning, and we've also gotten a different angle of this particular sector that is pretty much instrumental. Sometimes we just get to enjoy the imports, and we do not take time to understand the processes that are behind getting some of these products to the country, and equally the processes that are behind getting some of the products that we have, to the other countries. It was good having you this morning. It is now time that I take a short break and update you on what is happening on the road. It is terribly jammed up in Nairobi after this break.
This is